ZIGZAG and One, a place where we honestly discuss how to embrace the zigs and the zags in our crazy lives. Running away is not an option. Living in defeat is not an option. Instead, learning how to keep moving forward is what we'll do together, one nugget of wisdom at a time. Your host is Melanie Brown. She's navigated a few zigs and zags in her life with the determination to never give up. Expect great stories and lots of laughs. Are you ready? Let's do it.
Welcome to the ZIGZAG and One podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Brown. Today we are doing part 2 of a 2-part series entitled Connection, a Key to Preventing Suicide. So before we jump in, I just wanted to give you a heartfelt thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, telling your friends about it. Honestly, without you, this podcast wouldn't exist. And so for that, I am so thankful for you. So I wanted to give you a quick intro to our guest. Her name is Tracy Hurst. She's a friend of mine, has been for quite some time. She's also a licensed professional counselor. What makes her the perfect guest for this show is that she was a teenager who experienced depression and suicidal ideations. And now she is a professional counselor, and she has a heart and passion for helping others get through those dark times in their lives as well. So let's jump right in and let's listen to part 2 of this series with Tracy Hurst for National Suicide Prevention Month. So Tracy, I am so glad that you joined me again. And I know that the last episode, part 1 of this series, was tough. It's heavy.
Yeah.
There's nothing funny about it or lighthearted about it. It's just powerfully tough.
I know, and yet we've got to talk about it like you said last time.
Yes, we do.
In the news, that's all we're hearing about is the increase of suicide, the mass shootings that even happened last month. I mean, we're at a place where psychological pain and depression and suicide is at an all-time high.
It is. In fact, I have a few statistics I want to share. I don't want to get too heavy into this, but I think some of these they were eye-opening for me, and it's hard to fathom that they're true, but they are. The second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34 is suicide.
Yeah.
And this one, I guess because I'm a teacher, I tutor kids in this age range, this one hits me really hard. Each day in our nation, there are an average of over 5,400 suicide attempts by young people in grades 7 through 12.
Wow.
Those are my people.
I know. And that's 7th grade is when I also began to be depressed and struggle with suicide ideations. So yeah, that is a demographic we've got to talk about today in our podcast because it's a group that we just think, oh, they're in middle school, oh, they're in high school, oh, they're hormones. Actually, no, there's something serious that's going on. Did you know that 129 people die every day of suicide? 129. 47,000 die of suicide each year. But listen to this, 1.3 million every year attempt suicide.
That's a big
It's
number.
a big number.
Yes.
30% of our population in the U.S. at one time or another struggle with clinical depression at some point in their life. So this is a topic that you said is not fun, but it's a topic, and those of you who are listening, I want to just applaud you right now. And probably you have been impacted. If you pushed play, I bet someone you love maybe has ended their life, or maybe it was a friend. I know I had a friend from high school that took her life, and I remember the day finding out and taking a walk and weeping and thinking, could I have done anything? Could I have done anything? And if it's okay with you, I'd like to take just a moment to even speak to the people where a loved one or a friend did take their life.
Yes, because I feel like suicide or what leads up to suicide impacts all of us in some way. We know someone. Maybe it's someone that's very, very close to you, a friend or a family member, but it could be somebody that you sit next to frequently at church.
Right.
It could be somebody in your social media circle that you know but you don't know really well, but they've posted some things online that make you concerned.
That's right. And to reach out. And that's where the power of community is so needed.
Yes.
To when wherever you are, it's kind of funny. Whenever my family and I travel, we at some point get called the nice people. And I'm not kidding. Like, seriously, we went to this dude ranch.
I would agree with that.
We went to this dude ranch and rode horses all day. We did it for my 13-year-old who is horse crazy. And I was so sore. And she loved showing me what I was doing wrong when I was gearing up.
I saw those pictures and she was happy as a clam.
That is her love and passion. And so what's funny is whenever we would go, it was like a buffet and you could sit anywhere. Well, we would sit at a table, but we would always talk to the table next to us.
Of course.
Everyone gets in their group and does their thing, but I'm always aware. I think you are too. We're aware and looking. And so I guess that's one of the takeaways today is, will you be aware and will you be looking? Is someone around you at a restaurant? Is someone around you in the pew at church? Is someone behind you in the grocery store that's downcast and you can tell they're struggling? What if you could just say something encouraging? What if you could say, hey, listen, I hope you have a good day. Hey, listen, haven't seen you in a while. Again, the power of reaching out. Again, it goes back to when someone feels understood and valuable.
And seen.
Amen to that.
Yes.
To be seen. And that's one of the things that our youth is saying is, I want to be seen and understood. And as I sit with teens, one of the things I explain to them is, well, if your greatest desire is to be understood, then you have to communicate.
Yes.
And they don't like that part.
No, because it's easier to just not communicate, because communication makes you vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's a sticky place to be.
Yeah.
But when you are vulnerable with other people and you share about yourself, that's when the beauty of community, of connection, of feeling loved, of feeling seen, of feeling understood happens.
That's right. That's right. So again, I think the power of community is great. But if I just want to take a moment, and if someone listening, if a friend or a loved one has taken their life, I want to say a couple things. Number one, I'm really sorry. And I want to say that to you, Melanie, too. I'm really sorry.
I appreciate that very much, because it's something that
it's painful.
I think about, and it doesn't happen just on that day. It doesn't just happen on his birthday. There's certain things. He always was laughing. I remember us jumping on the trampoline and just him cackling. So I see a commercial that has some kid jumping on the trampoline, and it immediately
you're thinking of
makes
him.
me think of him.
What was his name?
Jerome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think of Jerome.
Such a great kid.
Yeah. And so there's someone right here today listening, and they're thinking of that person right now. And I'm sorry. I mean, there's nothing more. And I want to also say, remember that 90% of the people who take their life are clinically depressed.
Yes.
They reach the place of severity where they're mentally bankrupt. They no longer feel connected to their loved ones. Even, well, why couldn't they live for their kids? There's a mental bankruptcy, a disconnect to where they cannot do anything but try to alleviate this intense pain.
And I love how you said the disconnect, because it makes me think of the antonym or opposite of it, and how in order to get around or heal, not get around, more so heal that disconnect, you do it by connecting. That's powerful.
Yeah. So to be a connection for someone else. Yeah, and we'll talk more about the research that's mind-blowing with our millennials and the lack of connection. We'll get to that in just a moment. I want to say a couple more things real quick.
Sure.
You are not responsible. You are not responsible for that loved one, that friend, that person taking their life. It's not your fault.
Right.
It's not your fault. You cannot make someone breathe. You cannot make someone want to live. And if you are still really struggling, please go talk to a counselor. Go talk to someone and allow yourself the steps of grief. And then go ahead and
If you would, share that hotline number again, because I remember as part of your story that you reached out and that significantly helped you. I'm sorry. I'm
did.
asking
No,
you
you're
to,
fine.
to look in your notes and you're scrambling trying to find.
Well, what's great is, again, like we talked about in our last topic, was 100% people dream and have a fantasy of being rescued. No one truly wants to end their life. They just can't keep living life the way it is.
Yes.
So the Suicide Hotline number, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, is 1-800-273-8255. That'd be a good one to just put in your iPhone.
Yes,
Put
it
in
would.
your Android. Go ahead and have it ready, because whether you know someone who's struggling and you don't know what to do, call them. They'll help you walk through what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. Or if you are struggling yourself, that's the number to call. That lifeline, when I called the suicide hotline in 9th grade, they said to me, you can't stay in the environment you're in. The crowd you're in is not
Yes.
good for you. Living with your mom right now is not good for you. Is there another place you can go? And so me moving in with my dad, me getting that fresh start,
Yes.
which we talked about, that change of scenery, my dad forcing me to go to church, best rule ever, right?
I was going to say, forcing sounds harsh, but knowing your story and rereading it again the other day, forcing you to go to church was exactly what you needed.
Connection.
You needed the connection.
I needed the connection between peers my age
and with God.
and with God. I blamed him for the abuse I went through when he was the one behind my rescue.
Yes.
The enemy is always the one, John 10:10, that comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and Jesus comes to bring life and life more abundantly. But I wouldn't have known that truth if I had not found a connection at a local church.
Yes.
Yes. So right there, if someone you know is struggling, connect with them. Find a place to connect them into, especially our young people. Youth groups saved my life, is the truth about it. And so there's hope available. There's help available. And so I just, if you've lost someone, again, if you can take a few of these things we just mentioned and just allow yourself to heal and allow yourself to love them, remember the state that they were in so that you can quickly forgive them. Because suicide's so selfish. It's the most selfish act any person can commit, but we need to remember that severe depression, that bankruptcy, if you will, they were not truly themselves when they made that decision.
Yeah. So when we talk about the teen group, because
Yes.
it's such an important part of our population, and with the statistics that I shared earlier, and then even one more, 4 out of 5 teens who attempt suicide have given clear warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put all the blame on social media, because there are some wonderful things that have occurred via social media. But let's talk about social media. Let's talk about bullying.
Mm-hmm.
I know bullying is primarily done at the younger ages. It does happen in adults. But I want us to focus on social media and bullying and how those things impact our youth to the point that they are feeling depressed, that they are feeling lonely, that they contemplate and even commit suicide.
Yeah. Sean Parker, he was the founding president of Facebook, admitted that Facebook and social apps of all kinds have the same trigger impulsive part in the brain as gambling and substance abuse. So just think about this. We have laws that say you can't drink till you're 21. Right? We're not going to go out as a good parent and create a gambling account for our 10-year-old.
No.
And yet we're handing them cell phones. And yet we're giving them social media without parameters. Okay?
Correct.
And that's where we need to recognize that a teen's underdeveloped frontal cortex cannot manage the distraction, nor the temptation that comes their way through media use. So they're bombarded, like you said, and research has shown in 2018 that adults and teenagers, this is going to blow your mind, that spend over 30 minutes a day, once a day, for a cumulative 30 minutes, if they spend over 30 minutes, they have an increase in difficulty of sleeping, in comparing themselves, of FOMO, fear of missing out. They're more susceptible to bullying, body image issues, anxiety, depression, isolation, and loneliness is the new epidemic. Loneliness. You know, I think we said it in the last podcast, 20% of millennials report having no friends.
That's tragic.
Tragic.
It is tragic because we know what that could ultimately lead to. They're disconnecting, which we know is where all of this cycle really starts.
That's where it starts.
And it's hard for me to think through all of that and to know that that's how the kids that I work with, the kids that I mentor, some of them are feeling that way.
Yeah. You know, we actually had a period of time when our 13-year-old, I forget even what it was, but we saw that social media was becoming too important to her. And we have put parameters. For example, she can text friends through my phone. So I'm reading everything. And everyone knows mom's reading everything, right? And it's been a beautiful thing because she has actually said things and done things via text that I've come alongside and coached her and said, hey, you were innocent in this. And your heart, your intent was good, but your impact was not. Intent versus impact, teaching our teens that. And she would just cry, I didn't mean to make that person feel rejected. And I said, I know you didn't, but that's why I'm sitting down with you, helping you. I'm not throwing you a phone. I'm saying, let's sit down and put parameters and I'm going to coach you through it. Right?
So share what happened when you
we
put her on that
took
restriction.
3 weeks, and this is what I heard. Oh, I don't think I can survive. You know, I mean, bless her heart. I thought, wow, we have hit a chord here, which is even more important to remove it.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, I hope she's not listening to this. Whenever there's a disciplinary issue, my first thing is, you've lost the iPad. You know, and she only gets limited access every day as it is. And we want it to hurt. We want it to hurt. So over this 3 weeks, we noticed something. She began to actually get creative. She began to get into her crafts. She began to talk more. We actually had deep conversations. There was one point when we saw her struggling and she even kind of broke down in tears and shared some struggles. And I can tell you, if we had not removed the social media, the numbness that the social media was giving her, and it's YouTubes of DIY stuff. There's nothing wrong with what she was watching, but it was keeping her from connection.
Yes. And I think just what we've talked about in this episode and the one before and the research that we've done leading into this, that is the core.
Yeah.
That's the core
It
of
is.
all of it, is that we need, as humans, connection. And it needs to be meaningful connection. It doesn't just need to be, oh, I know that person, or, yeah, that's my neighbor. And kids especially. They don't need to just sit next to a kid in class and go, oh, that's my friend. Because friend doesn't just mean somebody who's near you in your physical
That's right.
space.
Or the friends on your social media account. You could have 2,000 friends, but be so lonely.
Right. And then the whole bullying that happens, the comparison that happens.
Which is huge. Again, if we adults struggle with that, how are our teens going to be impacted by the comparison?
Yes. But the connection, to me, is extremely important. And for many years as a teacher, I've always spent more time connecting with my kids.
That's good.
As equally important as what I'm teaching them or guiding them through. And I've had the honor of being able to walk alongside a couple of young females.
A mentor, it sounds like.
A mentor, yes. And I don't take that role lightly. It's something that's very, very important to me because as an educator and being in the schools, both public and private, I see how kids need to see adults as somebody who is a cheerleader, somebody who is an encourager.
Just cares, right?
Just cares, just genuinely cares, and wants to spend time with them.
Yeah. And what's amazing to me is young people don't care how old you are, what you weigh,
Right.
what you're, if you have a country accent or not. They just want to be seen, understood, and loved and valued.
Yes. And somebody besides their parents, not to discount their parents, but they need to know other adults choose to be in their lives, who want to be in their lives, and ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
I ask the hard questions often, and I'm very thankful and very blessed that they tell me the answers.
Awesome.
And I hope that they don't feel like they need to shield any of that from me, because I don't go back and run and tell their parents unless it is a situation
Dangerous, right.
which is dangerous, and that has yet to occur. They just have issues that they need to discuss, that they need to work through, and not be talking to another 16-year-old who has a skewed view of that situation.
That's right.
They need somebody a little bit older
Life
who
skills,
has a little bit of
wisdom.
wisdom, who maybe has even been there.
Yeah.
Just to connect with them.
It's so true. Just someone that they can lean on and know, as you said, is in their corner is absolutely vital. I love that. Yeah, to look for the young people. I would even say look for the people that everyone else avoids.
Ooh, that's
People
wonderful.
avoided me. People avoided me. I didn't mention this in this podcast, but I was Gothic. I wore all black. I wasn't,
You didn't want to be seen.
I was saying basically back off. Don't hurt me.
Yes.
I was trying to self-protect. And where I kept the bad out, unfortunately, I kept the good out too, right?
Yes.
So again, but it took a few people looking past my prickly exterior saying, hey, Tracy, what are you interested in? What music are you listening to? Again, just getting to know me and not letting even my exterior keep them from reaching out to me. So again, connection, reaching out. And then I would say when it comes to social media, parents, be involved. Set the parameters. Coach them through it. Delay access as long as you can. Follow their accounts. Maybe create a family account instead of giving them an individual one. And set either a timer for when they need to get off, or there's great software out there that we use that she's allowed to be on the internet from 3 to 5, and then it's done for the day, right? And she can be in or be off in that time. What about turning our phones in for the day?
I need to do that myself.
Well, you're going to find that you're uncomfortable with it. You're going to find that you miss it, and you're going to go for it. But it's amazing the connection that's going to happen.
But that's kind of the whole point as I'm processing this and thinking about it actually happening.
Connection to ourselves.
Yes.
Wow. To not numb.
Yes.
Connection to the people around us. To have those hard talks and ask those hard questions, like Suicide Prevention Week is saying, be the one to ask. Be the one to reach out.
Be the one to spend time with me.
Be the one. Yeah.
I think so many people just want somebody else's presence. I know this morning when I was praying, I said, God, I just want your presence. I just want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And we can do that with God, and we need to do that with God.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to do it with other people. Just spend time with other people.
Yeah.
And say, don't be scared to say. I mean, I looked at you when we started, and I said, I love you. We need to be able to say that to our friends and it not have some weird sexual connotation.
That's right.
It just means I love being with you.
That's
I love
right.
spending time with you. You make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Those things.
Absolutely.
I think those things are so incredibly important.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, we need to cover the one takeaway.
Okay. I think the one takeaway goes back to a little bit of my story, and what I want to leave people with, and what I want you to really walk away with is there is no pit that God cannot pull you out of. And it goes back to the Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3 that I read, and it talks about how when we cry out to him, he hears us. He pulls us out of the pit, out of the mud and the mire. He sets our feet upon a rock. He gives us a new song. You see, when we're struggling with depression, with loneliness, with suicidal ideation, we need to be in a place of life. The new song is moving from death to life, to even have the desire to want to live. And so I love that scripture when it says he puts a new song in my mouth. And then it says that many will see and fear and put their trust in him. We've got to tell our testimonies. Our testimonies and our stories bring connection, bring relief, bring help and hope to everyone. And that's why I love your ministry, Melanie. I love what you're doing because you're sharing stories. People know they're not alone, whether they're battling cancer, whether they've lost their husband through grief. I'm just thinking of the podcast you've done. Whether you're struggling in parenting, your podcasts are bringing hope and to let people know they're not alone. So remember, there's no pit that God cannot pull you out of. I think the second key that we kind of came up with is connect.
Yes.
Connect with God. Allow yourself to connect with others. See, I'm good to connect with God. I struggle to connect with others. That I'm being honest.
Well, and that's where it starts, is us being honest.
Yeah.
I have one of the girls that I mentor, and she said, I don't hug. I just don't hug. And over the course of the years of knowing her, I don't try to invade that space. Mm-hmm. But now that we've gotten down the road a little bit, she hugs me.
She'll give you a side hug or full on?
A full-on hug.
Oh, wow.
and I'll hug her, and I'll tell her, I love you, and I am so thankful that you hug me. Because that sends such a huge message to me.
Oh, yeah.
So,
she let her guard down.
Yeah.
She trusts you.
Yeah, and I love that. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tracy, thank you. Thank you for your kind words about my ministry. I feel so honored and humbled that God has given this ministry to me. I want so desperately for the stories that I share on my website and the stories that I share through the podcast to bring hope, to bring encouragement.
They are.
And if it just reaches anyone who is struggling, and more importantly, after today's podcast, reaches that person that feels hopeless, then God gets the win. I don't want any accolades for it. I want it to be all about God.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So thank you so much for 2 episodes about a very, very hard topic. But with your personal experience and with your professional experience, I know that this information is going to reach many people, maybe open their eyes to the seriousness of this issue, but also to give tips and ways to be there for other people, to connect.
Yeah, there's hope and help. No pit is too deep that God cannot pull you out of.
Yes. So we're going to wrap up today's episode. Remember, friends, when life zigs and zags, and we know that it will.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. There is no pit, as Tracy said, that God cannot pull you out of, and that includes your feelings going to the point where you feel like you are suicidal or someone that you know is. Friends, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this first season of the Zigzag in One podcast. I have to tell you, it has been a blast. So during the next few months, I'll be putting together a powerful lineup of guests with great new content. I promise you, you don't want to miss it. I look forward to seeing you again in January for Season 2 of the Zigzag in One podcast. Until then, when life zigs and zags, and you know it will, keep moving forward.